Well, let's talk about solutions.
Yeah.
What does a regular person do? Well, the next story we have is from Washington Times. 5 Oregon counties to vote on leaving the state and escaping to Greater Idaho.
Understandable.
And they actually have 2 phases. The first phase is to get these 5 counties, which would turn Idaho into a coastal state. It would give them a port.
Wow.
No joke.
Yeah.
No way.
Idaho
like
would
this.
reach the Pacific.
I love it.
Amazing.
They also have phase 2, which would rope in Northern California
Yes.
into Greater Idaho. It would not create a new state, and this is their plan. So you have all these counties in Oregon which are conservative. These counties are saying the politicians in Portland,
It's not
in
just
Oregon,
Portland.
they're all Democrats. Right, it's all the Democrat areas.
Right.
They dominate the state politics, and they're giving COVID relief to their constituents and ignoring the rural areas. The rural areas say, well, we got more in common with Idaho. How about the Idaho border move and encompass us?
I like it.
I do
love
too.
it.
Sounds
I
great,
was
yeah.
gonna say, it
Listen,
sounds wonderful.
one of the challenges they say is, have you guys heard of the state of Jefferson?
Yes.
Northern California, same thing. They think they should break off and form a 51st state called Jefferson because they have nothing in common with the rest of the state and the big cities, and they do not get represented. Right. The problem is creating a new state. California is going to have to sign off on giving up this territory. The U.S. will have to have like a Article 5 convention or whatever it's called, where like all the states come together and then vote for amendments, and that would create the new state. The same thing is true for Greater Idaho, but it would not change the amount of senators. So there should still be the same amount of congressmen and women, and there should be the same amount of senators, and all it would do is move some borders around, which they say does happen. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan.
And
you
give
gotta
people sovereignty away from, of course, the big socialist, communistic, very far leftist governments. Sorry, go ahead.
And super populated, right? I think
Yeah.
one of the big problems with Northern California is that it's more sparsely populated, it's more rural, and so not only are they going to be ignored in terms of their political disposition, like they just don't have the political capital to be able to get the people who are making the decisions to care about them. Right? And with Greater Idaho, obviously that wouldn't be the case. You do have surely so much more shared value and so much more shared interest. I guess it would change the House of Representatives for each of those states, presumably, if enough people shifted and moved. But you're right, it wouldn't change the number of senators, and it probably, like, California will lose maybe 1 congressional district at most. And so, I don't know. That sounds
I think
wonderful.
this is such a great idea to give a voice to some of the more rural populations. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super tired of the big cities having all of the concentrated power. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and so
the
this
rural
would-
people need a voice.
So the interesting thing is that there was a study that came out recently that said even in red states, the cities are blue.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
The issue is that in these blue states, the cities are disproportionate in population size to the rest of the state. In the red states, it's inverted. So it'll be interesting to see all of a sudden these counties that have zero representation, all of a sudden feel represented.
That's great.
I think it's a great idea because what's the alternative?
Yeah,
These-
exactly.
If
Discontent.
people feel like the government does not represent them, what do?
Yeah.
This country was founded based on that fact.
Peacefully. It's the great thing about being in a democracy like this, too, or representative democracy, is that you can alter your borders peacefully.
Yeah.
Now, here's the weird thing. We've got Weld County, Colorado, right?
Yes.
They want to be a part of Wyoming for the same reason.
Yeah.
You got the state of Jefferson. Even if the people who live there say, we don't want to be a part of this place anymore, and we're the ones who live there, we're the people who run this county, the state still has to vote on whether you're allowed to leave.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. I don't think that should be the
Why
way
would a
it is.
state let you leave?
Yeah,
Yeah,
why
exactly.
would they be like, we willfully give up people who are enslaved to us?
Taxpayers,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
These are taxpayers who have no representation,
Yeah.
who are funneling money to their salaries, and of course they're not going to let their serfs leave.
Yeah,
And then lies
exactly.
the problem. What do those people end up doing? They get
Yeah.
angry. You'll see protests. We've got to have representation.
And it would be interesting to see if that, like, just as a phenomena catches on, right? Forget like those individual places for a second. If individual communities can say, "Hey, look, we are 100 feet away from another state that shares our values, and we are existing within a state that doesn't. What are the sorts of things we can do and animate to start to move and change those things?" I think that could be a really, really fascinating experiment in federalism to see how that plays out at all across the country.
Look at how the Democrats want to make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states so they can get 4 more senators
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
have a uniparty, a single party rule controlling the country. Now, to be fair, the Republican Party establishment and Democratic Party establishment, essentially the same things. But what's happening now is the Democrats don't even want to bother with whatever, pseudo arrangement they had in the first place. And they're like, hey, we'll make 2 more states and then we'll never lose ever again.
Right.
they would tell you, oh, Jefferson can't become a state. That's ridiculous. Why? It would create 2 new Republican senators. Or maybe not. I'm not confident what's going to happen to the Republican Party. I'm seeing all of these progressives saying like Joe Biden bombed Syria instead of giving us checks.
Yeah.
Good luck in the midterms. And I'm like, they don't need it. The Republican Party is split and is fractured.
Right.
People, they want Trump. They want people who support Trump. They do not want the crony establishment. So, look, we've had people on this show who have mentioned the idea of peaceful divorce.
Yeah.
I think Luke's mentioned peaceful divorce.
The first time I came on the show, I'm like, hey, don't make fun of me, but I think memes and peaceful divorce are going to be the only solution that are going to cause the least amount of harm on people. So if you want to reduce harm, you're going to have to work out a solution where people peacefully move away from each other and decide to live next to each other and not aggress against each other.
Yeah.
Well, without a peaceful divorce, like, how do we get to that point, right?
Right.
And so I think we're seeing recall efforts. We're seeing a lot of people go after the governors and complain about them. But we always try to vote out incumbents. And it doesn't change things for a lot of people. That's why so many people who never voted before voted for Trump.
Right.
Because they're thinking, what's the point? It's not going to change anything going back and forth. Well, then someone comes along and says, I got an idea. How about we move this town to a different state? Hey, that sounds pretty good. So 5 counties are going to be voting on this in May. Apparently, in November, several counties voted to do it already. Not that I think it will really happen, but they're saying, we want this.
Right.
All right. The states and the federal government say, no, you can't do it. Well, these people are, I mean, what happens? Because I talked about this before. When, Joe Biden or Fauci says, here's our new, COVID guidance, and this town says, we've had it.
Yeah.
No. And they set up their own checkpoints. They said their police say we won't enforce this. Already, we're hearing in many jurisdictions, the sheriffs are saying they're not going to enforce any of this stuff. What happens then when these people feel like, without representation, I have no confidence in the system anyway? In the state of Jefferson, I'll do air quotes, there are people who have flags for the state of Jefferson. They want it. They demand it. I guess in the end, what we're seeing here is this will start heating up, and then eventually you'll get to the point where when this fails, people say peaceful divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mr. Potato Head thing was enough to get Mark Dice to say, time for Republican states to secede from the
okay.
A
from the
little
union.
hyperbolic. But,
I know, it's hilarious,
He must
though. It's
have
great.
really loved Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, truly.
So
What's the plan with Mr. Potato Head now? Not to diverge too far away. Are they just going to
you
call him
missed-
Potato
no,
Head?
no, you just made a very big mistake.
Oh boy.
You called the Potato Head Mister.
Potato.
Yes. It is now just Potato
Senor
Head.
Potato Head? No, now it is down to just Potato Head.
no.
Or Potato
So it was
Head. Who knows?
before
Yes,
it was
I don't know what
Mr.
it
and
is.
Mrs. Potato Head.
It's genderless.
And now they're just both called Potato Head?
Yeah.
Are they
It
both
was-
genderless, or is it just
They're both
formally?
the
I
same
don't wanna-
potato, but Mr. Potato Head comes
Don't wanna
with like
miss gender.
eyelashes and big lips.
Yeah.
And the Mr. Potato Head comes with the mustache.
Oh, but it's just all going to be packaged as Potato Head now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, so
Interesting.
now you get, I guess, one with everything in
Okay.
it.
That's a great
Sounds
question.
like they might like
That would've
now
been an
now
error.
now they don't have to make different color boxes
Yeah.
with different designs. So they'll save some money on design and box production.
Yeah.
But then it sounds like they're going to be selling less products.
Yeah,
'cause
half as much product.
What if you did like Mr. Potato Head, Mrs. Potato Head Kids?
Yeah, we
Aunt
had both.
Potato Head.
You have
Yeah.
to
Grandpa Potato Head.
Yeah.
Doggy
You can't do it
potato
now.
head.
You could have. I mean, you could
Potato
have
dog?
a non-gendered potato head.
You,
I
you
only
could do
heard about-
BLM Potato Head. You could
Yeah.
do Antifa
Add it in,
Potato Head.
yeah.
You could,
Wait,
that's
wait,
a
wait,
lot
wait,
of
wait,
options
wait.
there.
Hold on. We're giving away really good ideas.
And I'm telling you,
us.
I think what this all was. But as soon as I saw it, at first I was like, "Well, this is dumb." And then my second thought was, "Oh no, there is some really creative intern who
Yep.
said I can get Potato Head trending." And his
Yeah.
bosses were like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, Potato Head. Hello, this is Hasbro. We've had Potato Head for a gajillion years." He's like, "Listen, follow me here. Mr. Potato Head, no gender. Do away with it. Watch what
Progressive.
happens. Boom.
Yes.
Now we're
But
talking
you know what the
about
worst
it.
part was? When he was he was at pitch meeting where the intern was pointing to like his slides, and like as he's pitching the no gender Mr. Potato Head, the other intern was walking in holding the iPad with potato dick and potato boobs. And, he was like, and then he overhears him saying it, and he like
Oh, sadly.
he looks down and he
Swipes right.
mopes away like, aw, I was gonna
see it.
make mature potato
Yeah,
head.
exactly.
I know, right?
Adult potato
That's what
Yes,
head.
3D
exactly,
printers are for.
exactly, yeah.
You sell the CAD
Anyway,
files.
so we were talking
Anyway.
about seceding from the states,
Which is a great idea.
and
Well-
states leaving the union.
I like the idea
And
of making
Idaho
new states.
potatoes. I mean,
oh
hello.
yeah, there you go.
like,
Spuds.
this is
Yep.
all connected.
That's right,
if
it
you
is.
really squint hard
It's a
enough.
simulation.
So
It's a simulation.
we've
That's
been-
it. I'm done.
We've been making states since 1776, right? And so why don't we just keep making them?
Yeah.
Well, making states is hard because
True.
the
Yeah.
political process around it is tortured, right? Forever there will always be a Democratic push to make Washington D.C. a state.
Which
The
is
argument
insane.
will narrowly be we should do the implicit argument is we should do this because we need to enfranchise everyone because they want 2 senators. Republicans will make the opposite point and say, hey, this doesn't actually make sense in the Constitution. But fundamentally, don't get me wrong, from a uni-party perspective, if it would have been 2 Republicans who got elected senators, I guarantee you the Republican Party would find a really compelling reason why we've been misreading the Constitution.
And the Democrats would be saying the Constitution
and they would be
says.
saying the opposite thing. And so
but
you'll
it is
always
true.
see that back and forth in that fight about new states.
The important reason we have D.C. is not a state is so that the federal government exists outside of any state's jurisdiction. We have to have that. Puerto Rico actually makes sense to be a state.
Yeah, me too.
sure.
But imagine if you could look at God, I don't know what you would call it between was it Jefferson state, the state of Jefferson. If you could have the state of Jefferson and then part of Oregon and say, all right, here, this has if you could cut out those areas and make them have approximately the population of Puerto Rico and say, all right, guys, 1 for 1, we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
I don't think the Dems would probably not go for it only because they would lose some little bit of representation and all of that. And California obviously drives so much of the modern Democratic Party. But
I don't understand the logic behind I'm not being represented in this state, so we are going to self-govern, and them saying, but we can say no.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? The Constitution is literally, a government of, by, and for the people. It is the duty of the people, blah, 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 all that stuff. So what's the justification now for the U.S.? They're not leaving the country. They're not leaving the Union.
Right.
Greater Idaho is crafted very politically in a very smart way to say it won't change the amount of states.
Yeah.
It will give Idaho more representation, more congressional representation. Actually, no, I don't think it would actually change the makeup of Congress because the jurisdictions for Congress are going to be based on like the sort of county level, right?
Well, so they'll be based on the 20. It's interesting in terms of when it
Districts.
happens. It'll come down to the 2020 census. But no, it's a population question. And so it depends on how many people Greater Idaho adds to current Idaho.
Well, so the area of Oregon that is going to break off and join Idaho already has a Republican representative, these districts.
Oh, good point.
So they would join Idaho. It wouldn't change.
Yeah.
It would just mean that state law would benefit them. They'd be able to have guns. They would get their COVID relief when they need it. They would be respected and represented. It's very smart what they're proposing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's a huge problem that Oregon can be like, nah. Well, you're not representing their people. If they come to the federal government and say, we object and we demand the right to do this, I think the federal government should say, agreed.
Yeah, I think so too.
If Idaho agrees, Idaho is the only one who has to agree to this. The counties have to agree, and Idaho has to agree. Oregon should have no say in the matter.
Look, Tim, there's too much common sense for the government to do this.
Yeah.
So if it was ridiculous, stupid, and counterintuitive, they would have their
They'd be
stamp
all
on it
over
right
it.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
But this makes a lot of sense. This makes perfect sense. If we lived in a just society where we had government that actually served its people,
In a perfect
it would happen.
world.
But again, we have to also understand that the government of California, the government of Oregon, a lot of these bureaucrats view their citizens as tax cattle and tax slaves. So they're not going to want to give up people who they're going to be able to tax and take a huge amount of money for that they don't have to do anything for. Right. So the initiative of the government that's already going bankrupt, especially in California, that can't balance a budget, that has so many wasteful spending bills and initiatives and programs that are just absolutely ridiculous. They're not going to give away their tax slaves. They want them. Just like in ancient days in the Roman Empire, they saw people as money. And then people were converted into slaves. That's the same thing that's essentially is happening
Serfdom.
here. Yeah.
This is like a neo-feudalist kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
These people with no representation are paying taxes, and that is money the state will not give up. Now, here's the funny thing. When the Greater Idaho people said COVID relief went to the Democrat constituents and not us, that's your money.
Yeah.
That's the money from the conservatives who paid the taxes and then saw that tax revenue from the federal government and from the state level go to their political rivals and was not fairly allocated.
So would it have to be that Idaho buys the territory from the other states?
No.
As like reparation for the loss?
No,
No,
I think it should literally just be, we live here.
Yeah,
We
it's our
voted.
land.
The county says, the council members, whatever represents this county, we are now Idaho.
But California could be like, well, we spent a lot of California citizens' taxes to make those cities what they are, so you owe us something before you leave.
That's something that would need to be adjudicated, but that's the problem. What the people in Greater Idaho are saying is that they're not getting that. They're not getting the resources. And so the argument from someone in like Portland was like, well, you're going to have to consider all the taxes you've got to pay. And they're like, the taxes would go down.
Yeah.
We would pay less in taxes to Idaho, and you're not giving us the resources. So the problem is, the grievance they have is, you're not investing in us. You're not fixing our infrastructure or giving us the COVID relief we've asked for. You're giving it to your people who are going to vote for you to maintain their power. That is going to lead to conflict and crisis. When one side is getting too little and one side is getting too much, it's the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So what makes sense? If I live here, I should be able to be like, we vote. There we go. The land is this county. Idaho, what do you say? Then Idaho would have to vote.
Right.
And if Idaho says yes, done.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think in so many ways too, that would help get around concerns of if you have these places that aren't paying much in taxes, that aren't super valuable, you would at least have to have buy-in from the places they're going to say, yeah, they're not just taking them in as, as the backstraggle or what have you. These are just people who we want to break bread with. And so we are going to do what we need to legally empower them to be citizens like us.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.